All right, welcome back to Selling on Giants, the podcast where we break down what is actually happening across Amazon, Walmart, and the broader e-commerce landscape, and more importantly, what we are doing about it as operators. Let's start with something that looks like a policy update, but in reality, it is a compliance trap waiting to happen. There is a new executive order pushing stricter enforcement around Made in USA claims. On paper, nothing changed. The FTC standard has always been all or virtually all. What changed is enforcement, and that is where sellers get caught. A lot of brands use Made in USA loosely. It shows up in bullet points, A+ content, storefronts, even images. It works until someone looks closely. If your product is not fully compliant, meaning components are sourced internationally or assembly is partial, you are now exposed. This is not branding anymore. This is listing liability. What we are doing across accounts right now is a full sweep of origin claims. If it is not airtight, it gets removed or qualified. Because one flagged ASIN can turn into suppressed listings, compliance tickets, or broader account risk. That is not a trade worth making for a marketing angle. Now, staying in the world of things that look clean on paper but get messy in execution, let's talk about customers threatening negative feedback. Amazon reinforced its stance here. You cannot offer refunds or incentives tied to feedback removal. You are expected to resolve the issue and report extortion. Sounds straightforward. In reality, this happens more than most sellers want to admit. Buyer's message. They threaten a 1-star. They ask for a refund, sometimes without returning the product. Now you are stuck protecting either margin or rating. Amazon is very clear on policy and very inconsistent on enforcement. We see the same patterns: empty returns, false defect claims, repeat offenders. The play here is not emotional, it is operational. You separate resolution from feedback. You document everything. You escalate with evidence when it is abuse. We have blocked buyers. We have identified patterns. It works, but it takes consistency. This is not a one-off issue. It is part of operating at scale on Amazon. Now let's zoom out from individual orders to the broader demand environment. The NRF is projecting about 4.4% retail growth. That is positive, but it is not explosive. This is a stable market, not a rising tide, which means you are not going to grow because the market grows. You are going to grow because you execute better than the next brand. Conversion rate matters more, pricing strategy matters more, inventory position matters more. Because when growth slows down, competition tightens and average operators get exposed quickly. Now that leads directly into margin pressure, and this is where things get more real for a lot of brands. USPS continues to report major losses, and that creates a downstream effect on e-commerce shipping. This is not theoretical. This shows up in rate increases, service variability, and less predictability in last mile delivery. A lot of brands still rely heavily on USPS for lightweight shipments. That works until it does not. The move here is thinking in blended carrier strategy, not defaulting to one solution. You model for rate increases. You test alternatives. You monitor delivery performance as part of customer experience. Shipping is no longer a fixed input. It is a variable lever that impacts margin. Now, while margins are getting tighter on the logistics side, Amazon is quietly pushing more visibility into where margin is actually lost. They updated the returns and recovery dashboard. This is a big one if you are paying attention. You now get ASIN level visibility into return reasons, processing fees, and recovery rates. Most brands track returns at a high level. This pushes it down to where you can actually act. You can see which products are driving return costs. You can see why. And you can tie it back to listing issues, product quality, or expectation gaps. The opportunity here is not only reducing returns, it is improving contribution margin. Operators who lean into this will fix problems faster and recover more value from returned inventory. Now let's shift from Amazon to how retailers are thinking about revenue more broadly. Target quietly pulled in around $915 million in advertising revenue. And that is the signal. Retail is not just about selling products anymore, it is about monetizing traffic. Amazon did it first, Walmart followed, Target is scaling it. For brands, this means paid media is not optional. It is part of shelf space. You are not just competing on product. You are competing on visibility within a paid ecosystem. And the margin dynamic shifts. Brands fund the ads. Retailers capture the high margin revenue, which means your PDP, your creative, and your conversion all need to support paid traffic. Otherwise, you are paying to lose. Now, building on that idea of retailers owning more of the relationship, Sam's Club is leaning further into what they are calling the participation era. This is really about membership, retention, and engagement. Owning the customer, not just the transaction. For brands, this matters because you are operating inside ecosystems where the retailer controls the data and the relationship. Growth comes from repeat purchase, bundling, and long-term value, not just acquisition. The brands that align with that win. The ones that treat it like a one-time sale get left behind. Now, right around this point, this is where a lot of brands start to feel pressure internally. Because you are managing compliance, customer issues, margin pressure, and now paid media expectations on top of it. And things start to slow down. Decision-making gets harder, teams get misaligned, execution gets inconsistent. That is usually where we step in. Bellavix has helped brands drive over $500 million on Amazon. We are a verified ad partner, and we focus on hands-on execution. We are in the account daily. We are making decisions with context, and we turn complexity into a clear operating plan that actually moves the business forward. If that is where you are at, you can learn more at bellavix.com. Now let's bring this back to platform-level friction, specifically on Walmart. UPC exemptions. Walmart added visibility into why requests get denied. You can now hover and see the reason. That helps, but it does not solve the real problem. The process is still inconsistent, and approvals still depend on how well your submission matches their internal structure. This is not about being technically correct. It is about being structurally aligned. If your brand data, product details, or documentation are even slightly off, you get denied and you are back in the queue. The move here is systemization. You standardize submissions. You align your data perfectly. You treat catalog setup like a process, not a task. The brands that move faster are not lucky. They are precise. Now, the last piece here is something a lot of sellers are starting to feel, but not everyone is talking about yet. There is a growing trend of sellers pulling back on third-party software. Amazon keeps expanding native tools, analytics, advertising, operations. So sellers are simplifying. That sounds good, but there is a trade-off. You reduce cost and complexity, but you also give up flexibility and deeper insights. The advantage does not come from having more tools. It comes from knowing when to simplify and when to go deeper, because Amazon is clearly building a more closed ecosystem. And that means differentiation shifts away from tools and toward execution. So if you step back and look at everything we covered today, there is a clear pattern. Compliance is tightening. Customer behavior is more aggressive. Growth is steady, not explosive. Margins are under pressure. Platforms are taking more control, which means the edge is not in hacks. It is in execution, clean data, clear systems, fast decisions. That is how you win in this environment. If you found this valuable, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe wherever you are tuning in. It helps more operators stay ahead of what is actually changing. I appreciate you being here. This is Mr. Will, and I will see you on the next one.